So first off, please excuse my goggle eyes. I just went for a swim. I'm going to do my best to break this down as concisely as I can, but this is not an easy topic to explain. But with your empathic support, even though I'm talking to myself right now, I'm not, because you're all with me in the quantum field. With your support, I'll be able to get through this. So, when your consciousness is expansive, you can hold more energy. You can hold more ideas. You have an ability to process through your emotions faster. You also have an ability to see life from different angles, from different vantage points. When your consciousness has a smaller bandwidth, then you're not able to hold as much energy. Now, you might be wondering, what's the point of holding energy? So the more energy that you can hold through the expansiveness of your mind, of your consciousness, the more you can manifest. Why? Because you're more, you could say you're more responsible from many perspectives, because you're not afraid to quote unquote ingest what happens to you and chew on it and digest it and fully process it. So if someone has a smaller capacity, a smaller consciousness, what keeps your consciousness small is trauma that is left unaddressed, fears that are left unattended to, and so on and so on. So someone with a smaller bandwidth of consciousness will be quick to anger. Or if you give them feedback, they're going to get defensive right away because they're not able to accept into their consciousness a new perspective. So think of it like this. The broader your consciousness is, the more you can hold perspective. And perspective is energy. Perspective is information. Everything is energy, including the realities that you manifest. Those are energy. So when you're able to hold more energy because you have taken accountability for how you respond to your reality, now you're able to have more authorship over your own story, right? Think about someone who gets really reactive or defensive or argumentative. They're constantly rejecting that information. They're rejecting that energy. So they're not going to have, well, already the fact that they're rejecting it tells you that they're like a slave to the beliefs that they've agreed to about life. They've agreed to the stories or the ideas of who they think they are. They're clinging on to something, because people who get defensive are clinging on to an identity or a personality or stories from the past, and so on and so on. Is this resonating? So when someone starts to take responsibility for themselves, when they're able to ponder what's happened to them, what might happen to them, they naturally start to stretch their mind into new possibilities. So what happens is the universe starts to identify them as someone who's very responsible, who can handle more. Everyone can handle a lot, but most people think they can handle a lot or refuse to handle a lot. But as you learn how to process energy, i.e. information, perspectives, realities, it's all the same thing. Everything is energy. And then that energy takes form. That energy, you could say, solidifies, or that energy, you could say, projects a signal outwardly, and that becomes your reality. That becomes the way people treat you. It becomes the way that you respond to life. It basically dictates your experience. So the more energy you can hold, the more love you can hold. Yeah? People who reject your advice, people who never welcome your feedback, people who always get defensive are essentially rejecting love. Love is energy. So they're rejecting their highest potential, realities. Is this making sense to you? I hope it is. And I think it is, because you've assisted me here today. My point is, How do you expand your consciousness? You have to start pausing, taking a deep breath before you react. You have to start examining the beliefs that you have about reality, about yourself, that are keeping you small. You have to start confronting your fears and dispelling your fears, getting rid of your fears. You have to stop shaming yourself whenever you overeat or undereat or make love to someone or have sex with someone. Stop shaming yourself. You have to stop guilting yourself if you don't feel like seeing certain friends or if you don't feel like hanging out with family members. You have to release the part of you that you are not. You are not the fear. You are not the shame. You are not the blame. You are not the fear. You are not this inauthentic being that hangs out with people just to people please them. Okay? Don't be afraid to investigate what is holding me back. Is it a deep-seated fear that I have yet to address? When you address that fear and you eliminate it, then you expand your consciousness because you're not constantly obsessing over minute details in this reality. Someone who's afraid of money is always going to obsess over how much they spend. That's because they're playing small. They're a slave to their mind. So they're going to get tied up in all the minute details. Someone who's a bigger dreamer, a bigger thinker, a visionary doesn't have time for details because it doesn't play in fear. The person's consciousness is too large to have time to operate within time. They don't have time to operate within time. They're busy creating. They're busy manifesting. They're busy making things happen from a state of alignment because their consciousness is wide, it's broad. Now, someone who makes things happen from a place of fear actually has a small consciousness because they're still in survival. They're always, I need to make money because I'm afraid, da, da, da. So they have a smaller consciousness. They're governed by their fears. They're governed by the thoughts that they've accepted as their own. Okay? So when you're no longer governed by thought, you take your power back. You start understanding the bigger picture. My old self would have impulsively decided to do something, but through patience, I've learned that that decision wouldn't have been the best decision. And I see that that wasn't the best decision because I'm wiser now. I take my time in life. I entertain or I contemplate the different outcomes based on if I go this way or that way or that way. And then you eventually go, I'm not going to go any way. I'm not going to go any direction because I don't need to make myself small to figure it out. It's going to come to me when it's meant to come to me. That's because you've had time to expand your consciousness. You're not governed by thought anymore. Does this make sense? So you have to increase your capacity to hold energy. Because as you increase your capacity to hold energy, you're also holding more love. You radiate love, kindness, consideration, respect, honor towards others. You stop trying to control everything about your life. You're more chill. I'm chill. Whatever. What's going to happen is going to happen. Right? But when someone has a small bandwidth, everything rattles them because they're afraid to step into their higher potential. They're holding themselves back. They don't want to take responsibility. And with great power comes great responsibility. So as you're able to hold more power, you're also able to hold more responsibility. And the universe appoints you different roles in this life because you're so responsible, because you can handle a lot. Yeah, and then life starts to get a lot more fun. Because the old stuff that used to perturb you or disturb you don't disturb you anymore. Because you're not a slave to your thoughts. All right? I love you, my friends.